Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Bogles, and this time we're running up against Grixis Death's Shadow. That's a deck that has seen a bit of an uptick in play recently. It was very popular, and then Hogak kind of destroyed it. But now Hogak is gone, Grixis Death's Shadow has made a bit of a comeback in the format and is a pretty good option. So that's what we're facing up here. This is our opening hand. It's fairly decent. I mean, it's not overly exciting, but we've got a 1-drop and a set of auras and a coronet, so pretty decent setup for us. Also, if our opponent doesn't really do anything on turn 1, we can keen sense, and then we should be able to draw some extra cards, which will play out quite nicely for us. So let's lead it off with a Boggle. It's got a Watery Grave into a Mishra's Bauble into a Inquisition. Just going to take the Keen Sense, unfortunately, depriving us of those additional draws. No second land for us, but we do draw a Spider Umbra, which we're just going to hook up here and attack for 2. That's another Bauble. Thoughtseize takes Griffspoon, so to deprive us of the evasion, and there comes the Death Shadow. So yeah, Griffins in the graveyard. We draw planes, so we can play Coronet here and attack for 5. That's a Street Wraith cycle, but only makes the Death Shadow a 4/4, so that doesn't become a favourable attack. So we hit for 5, and that makes the Death Shadow a 9/9, so obviously quite formidable now. We're going to play a Scout, and we're going to try and drop this Ethereal Armour. Our opponent has Drown in the Lock, which is another one of the additions to the deck. A couple of Throne of Eldraine additions to the deck, which have helped, I guess, power it up a little bit further. Most versions I've seen that are running at least one copy of the Royal Scions, and also Drown in a Lock in multiples. It's kind of underrated. When I first saw it, I thought there was too much of a risk that it would just not be good against any deck that isn't really actively looking to put cards in the graveyard, but I think most decks in Modern are running some number of fetch lands, etc., so it's fairly rare that there's a deck that's not playing some number of putting some number of cards into the graveyard on a regular basis, and that's to discount anything that you're going to put in the graveyard by using discard spells, etc. So yeah, it seems to be a pretty good card and it's working out pretty well for Modern. Not necessarily quite as good in other formats, I would imagine. The other thing is obviously the low converted mana cost on most spells in Modern. So not really a whole lot to do. We can put this Coronet on the Boggle, but I think that's kind of risky, and doesn't really give us an attack, so I don't see any point in doing that necessarily. Opponent plays Snapcaster just as a chump blocker, basically, to allow them to attack with the Death Shadow. We're not in range of lethal. Our opponent is representing a team of Battle Rage there, but we're not in range of lethal, so I can't imagine that they would have gone for it there. Try another Ethereal Armour after drawing one, but unfortunately that gets stubborn denied. We go for the Coronet here because we can then gain 8 life, which puts us, again, nicely cushions our life total. It makes our last attack fairly redundant. Decides to chump block here, trying to avoid getting blown out by a team of Battle Rage, plus some sort of life loss like a Street Wraith. But I'm not sure if that was strictly necessary. We draw a 4th land here, which is going to allow us to recast Griffspoon from the graveyard. to give the Boggle flying, and if our opponent doesn't have an answer here, they are dead. Unfortunately for us, they do not, so we are able to pick up the win in game 1. So let's go to the sideboard. So in terms of sideboarding, there isn't a ton of exciting stuff to do against Death Shadow. I think the main cards we're looking at are probably Path to Exile and the Ley Lines. Ley Line of Sanctity turns off the Thought Seizers and Inquisitions that they might have. Well, do have. So that's quite a good one. And Path to Exile, obviously, just an easy and cheap way to deal with Death Shadow. I think we're taking out the suppression fields. I don't think they really do it enough. They don't even do nothing. Obviously, there's baubles, they're fetch lands, and so on that you can get caught under a suppression field, but I don't think it really does enough in the matchup. Otherwise, I think Keen Sense is unlikely to get a lot of value for us. Maybe we can cut some copies of All That Glitters or the Ledgewalker probably. Actually, Ledgewalker's not too bad in that it's a creature that can attack past a Death Shadow, so maybe we actually keep the Ledgewalker in and maybe cut some other bits and pieces. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go. Okay, so here we have a game 2. This opening hand is not too great. And this isn't a whole lot better, unfortunately. So I think we might need to mulligan this as well. And we decided to keep it. I mean, I guess we've got the backup of having a second creature, and hopefully go from there, but yeah, inevitably they have Thoughtseize. Need to run out of Scout here. Thoughtseize, a second Thoughtseize takes the Coronet. Run to a second Coronet, which isn't overly exciting, but our opponent seems to have missed a land drop. Have they? Maybe not. Oh, there's the Royal Scions, so they do play that. I forget exactly what this does. Draw a card, discard a card. Yeah, the first strike and trample, which is obviously good. So we're going to crack the Horizon Canopy just to dig deeper, because obviously we would like to get something going with our Gladecover Scout, ideally. Unfortunately, things are not really turning our way. Maybe we should have taken that Maul to 5. I think probably we should have done Horizon Canopy. Still not finding us anything. Thought Scours. Angler hits the board as well, which is going to start pressuring our life total. And followed up with a Death Shadow. Here comes Griffspoon. My opponent's able to stubborn denial that. So we're going to go down to 5 here. Venture of a Dryad Arbor as a chump blocker potentially. But yeah, I think we're just going to be too far off. If we'd been able to stick this Coronet a bit earlier, then we might have been able in okay shape, but yeah, unfortunately just too slow. Our deck didn't really help us out. Our draws were not good, and our opening hand wasn't the best either, so unfortunately we got trounced. So let's go to game 3. Okay, so this is our opening hand, which is awful, so we won't be keeping this. This is a bit better. Not sure we necessarily need 2 Path to Exiles, but we've got a Boggle, we've got Ley Line to protect us from Thoughtseize and Inquisition, and obviously our opponent didn't see a Ley Line last game, so they won't necessarily be prepared for it. I doubt they have taken out any of their hand disruption, so that's good for us. And then, yeah, we've got a couple of auras to and one that gives evasion, so I think this is pretty nice. Not sure what we're going to put back. Definitely not Leyline, that was a misclick. Yeah, I'm going to put back one of the paths. I think that makes probably the most sense. So play the Boggle, plays Bauble, passes the turn. We'll play Griff Spoon here, which looks like it's going to get stubborn denialed. Which is fine, not ideal, but fine. So we can still play it from the graveyard eventually, if necessary. High number it. I'm going to tap for 2, opponent's going to Thought Scour, pass the turn back. Death Shadow comes down as a 2/2. With the potential to become much larger. I'm going to play another Boggle because apparently that is all we are drawing this game. Put that for 5. I decided to chump block. That's probably a bit too soon, realistically, but yeah, we're certainly under a lot of pressure. For a land, another Boggle can come out. We have Path here, which we can attempt, but I imagine our opponent has an answer for that. Yep, so Snapcaster Stubborn Denial. Maybe we had an earlier opportunity to use the Path. I'm not entirely sure, I'd have to look back, but yeah. And yeah, opponent has the Team of Battle Rage to finish us off, so yeah, kind of some miserable draws in Game 2 and Game 3 cost us. I think in general this matchup isn't too bad, provided we get off to a reasonable start. We just really want to be pressuring them and ideally outsizing them, but there's always the risk that they can get a huge Death Shadow and then Team of Battle Rage for the win. But yeah, fairly close matchup in my experience. It's certainly not too bad, it's just that, yeah, if they can stick their big guys and start using their Drowning Locks and Stubborn Denials to counter your stuff, then it becomes a bit of a problem, and they can drown you in that scenario, which unfortunately is what happened here, also with our deck misbehaving a little bit and not really providing us with the cards we needed, sadly, and some difficult mulligan decisions involved as well, so sadly didn't quite make it on this occasion.